Hey everyone, my name is the Theme Park Evangelist. Well, it is officially Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Hard to believe we are officially 2 weeks away from Christmas Eve and 15 days away from Christmas Day. It doesn't seem like it, but yeah, we are. Um, as I always did when I did the history of the Theme Park Evangelist YouTube series, I'm going to be continuing on the tradition with this brand new YouTube series I'm actually starting as of this morning, um, which is going to be titled How to Stay Faithful and Focused on God Even During Difficult Times. I'm going to be just going over any kind of upcoming vlogs and just generalizing over what's been going on in my personal life. So we're going to be starting with that, and then going into what's going to be coming up in upcoming vlogs, and then finally going to go into the actual discussion. So with the uh, discussion today, I'm going to be more or less discussing what I'm planning on discussing in the YouTube series, and because it is the very first one, I've decided to, kind of make it a little easier on you guys, especially those of you who are not very religious. And I'm going to start out with a personal testimony of mine. I'm not going to go over my salvation story. You can actually hear that on my YouTube channel somewhere else. But I'm going to be discussing another testimony of mine instead. One actually from high school. I figured that would be a very good one to talk about. Not my very first year, but actually my very second year of high school would be a very good one. So, even though my second year of high school may not be considered challenging to people who are going through financial crises or whatever, it was still challenging for me, and people of that age can definitely relate. So, I'm going to be just highlighting different stories from my young age all the way to where I am now. But I'll go more into that later. So, more or less, what's been going on with me is I actually was just up in Canada, uh, just traveling around, introducing Katie to the country for the very first time. So, honestly, I don't really have much to say other than that as far as personal is concerned. Um, it was actually really quiet when we went through Detroit into Windsor, Ontario. So here's the funny part. I got off at the bridge to Canada, and there was a whole line of trucks waiting to enter Canada, and there was no real clear signage of where I was supposed to go. So I accidentally got into the trucks only lane, and I'm thinking to myself, man, we're going awfully slow. And then it dawned on me after a truck blew his horn at me, and a somebody from the Canadian government got behind me, trying to help me understand I was in the wrong lane. And then I suddenly realized, oh, I'm in the wrong lane. So I carefully moved over to the autos only, and all of a sudden I'm flying. I'm like, what in the world? So I get all the way down there, and because I wasn't really in a hurry to get through the border, because there's always that nervousness going through the border, and you want to prepare yourself, especially the person who's never been through the border before. um, I decided that I would get behind um, a lane, or get into a lane where there was already somebody in the lane for a line for the border. Technically, there was a couple of spots that were open where there was nobody in line, but even then, I just felt like that was the best thing to do. And It was actually very smooth sailing going through, and then we got into into Windsor, and of course we didn't stop to think about turning on our data roaming. So we're like, okay, now where do we go? It's like I've been there through there before, but it had been like 5 years, right? So I'm like, okay, where do I go? And I decided to pull over at one of Katie's favorite places called Firehouse Subs, and finally figured out how to turn on my data roaming. And then we're like, okay, now we have a rough idea. Let's put in my cousin Michael's address and start heading out west, or east, I should say, because we were out west. And it was a long, long drive, but we finally made it out there. We spent a couple of days out at his place. Um, and then me, him, his sister Nicole, and my cousin as well, and Katie, all hopped in his tiny little car and went up north and went to Wyvale, and they got pummeled with snow. It was insane, and we spent the entire weekend out there. Then about Sunday afternoon, we finally went back, and we spent the rest of the time we had back at Michael's house, and then Monday morning Katie and I left for Niagara Falls. Finally got to my grandmother's about mid afternoon. Spent a few hours with her at her place, just talking. Had some dinner, and then my grandmother was very kind, and she took us out to look at the Christmas lights. Got to give Katie a tour of the area. We went and saw Niagara on the Lake. This was actually my very first time YouTubing the entire time, as hilarious as it is. Got to take Katie to lots of different Canadian places for her very first time, so that was really exciting. Then the next day, I finished up my Canadian vlogging by taking Katie back to Niagara Falls during the daytime. It was a very beautiful day. Only paid $15 to park over at the casino, which was really nice. And then we went to Tim Hortons right there over by the falls. And we went to Walmart super fast, got a couple of things. Went to Dollarama super fast, got a couple of things. And then we went back to my grandmother's house. We rode together down to Swiss Chalet on Lundy's Lane. And we all had dinner together. Went back to her place, watched a Christmas movie or two, and then we pretty much went to bed, got up early the next morning, and Katie and I drove through a snow squall to get back to northern Kentucky, and that's more or less what has been going on. Now, quickly, just going over, I know I'm not the greatest with time management when it comes to my YouTube channel, and that's something I need to work on. But let's quickly go over what's coming up of my YouTube channel. So Thursday, me, Katie, Danny, and Daniel, and I've been saying this a lot lately because whenever you guys see Gumdrop Jack and Christmas Carol at Winterfest, a lot of you guys have probably been thinking they look awfully familiar to Danny and Daniel. Well, I promise you, they're not. They're two completely different people. Some actually mistake them for their cousins, and that's all there is to it. That's why I don't ever come up and say hi Danny, hi Daniel, because they're not Danny and Daniel. They're Gumdrop Jack and they're Christmas Carol. That is it. So, but on Thursday, Katie and I are going to be attending the PNC Festival of Lights at the Cincinnati Zoo together. This time, Katie is actually able to come, so this will be my second time going with them, and I'll be vlogging once again, like I did last year. And then, sorry, just adjusting the camera. Saturday, right now, we're on the fence whether we're going to be going to the Ark Encounter to see their Christmas lights, or whether we're going to be going to Kings Island to see their Christmas lights. What I told Katie was I'm waiting to see if my schedule changes for Saturday. If I end up working on Saturday, then we'll go to the Ark Encounter. If I don't end up working on Saturday, we're going to Kings Island. So that's the decision I've made, because if I end up working on Saturday, I'm only going to be opening. But if I don't work at all on Saturday, then we're just going to go ahead and go out to Kings Island, because it's going to be really easy for me to get the sleep that I need, leave early enough, and get out to Kings Island. Just because, of the fact that I can get the sleep that I need and be well rested, and drive out to Kings Island early enough before they close for the night. And as always, we'll go and attend the parade, because that is awesome. Um, Also, really quickly, um, next week, everything is up in the air as far as what is going to be vlogged, but whatever I don't vlog this week will be pushed on to next week. And then, of course, Christmas Day, just don't forget that I'll do my usual Merry Christmas from the theme park Evangelist and Katie. I didn't do a Happy Thanksgiving because I was at my cousin Michael's house, and we were celebrating Thanksgiving as well with her Nana and Papa from London, Ontario. So I apologize, there was no Happy Thanksgiving from the theme park Evangelist and Katie this year. That is the reason why. So, as of right now, that is all I have going for you guys. The reason why is because my work schedule is extremely inconsistent, so I can't promise you guys anything. And my schedule is constantly changing. Like Saturday, it changed 3 times in one day. So I just never know what I'm going to be going up against. So just to elaborate a little bit more with you guys regarding um, what this new YouTube series is going to be like, now that I'm finally getting into it a little late. So, more or less, God laid on my heart that I should start a brand new YouTube series on how to deal with difficult times, and stay faithful and focused on Him even during those times. And I believe God put that on my heart because of the fact that I have been going through so many difficult times over the past couple of months. Honestly, over the past year, if you really wanted my personal opinion, but yeah, truthfully, over the past year, it's just been extremely hard. I've had so many challenges, but this past couple of months has just gotten even harder. And I mean, it's been nothing to cause me to do something that I regret, but it's been bad enough. And I understand that everybody goes through difficult times, and I decided, with God's help, that I would start up this brand new YouTube series for you guys, so that way um, I could help encourage everybody to stay faithful and focused on Him, even when, you know, things seem to be going wrong. Now, before I start, I did suddenly remember a comment that somebody had made in one of my previous YouTube videos. I was actually vlogging in the family room last time, and someone made the comment that the background looks very boring. Now, I do apologize, since I moved into this apartment, I haven't really been able to do much about the background. For one thing, I'm just renting this apartment. Secondly, I'm not the main applicant of this apartment. I'm a co-applicant. The guy I live with, he's running this apartment like it's his, and he limits me to what I can do big time, and that even goes down to where I can even park my own car. And this is not coming from the landlord. This is coming from my roommate. So, needless to say, if you have a complaint against the background of my vlogs in the future when I'm ever doing my at-home vlogs, there ain't nothing I can do about it until I move out. and then Katie and I are going to go get our own place together, and then we're going to spice things up a little bit. I'm trying not to always do at-home vlogs. I'm trying to get out of the house and do more vlogs out of the house because they're way more exciting. I can't always do at-home vlogs when I'm out of this house because, truthfully, when I'm with Katie, she wants all of my attention on her. So if I didn't do a vlog yesterday, that's why. And I'm not always at my parents' place either, or I would. So, yeah. So anyway, as far as this YouTube series is concerned, I've been really praying hard, and I'm like, well, I think it's time to start sharing some testimonies, Bible passages. So on a weekly basis, I'm gonna be doing some research on Bible passages that will correlate to that week's lesson. I'm going to be starting a agenda, and I'm going to be and I'm going to be posting on a weekly basis instead of posting this big itinerary and having to scroll back and look upon it every single week. I'm going to be posting, hey, starting Monday, because I do a lot of publishing in advance. I'm gonna schedule a post for Monday morning, and I'm gonna post exactly what I'm gonna be discussing. I'm gonna be, if it's gonna be completely religious based for those who do not consider themselves religious whatsoever, and that way to steer clear. I'm gonna be looking ahead of time and going, okay, so I'm gonna be discussing from this passage of scripture, and I'm going to be using these references from the Bible, blah, 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 and that way you know exactly what's going to be going on, but this also helps me. That way I know what I need to study ahead of time, so that way I'm prepared for that Monday. So anyway, that is the current plan. It's almost kind of like a weekly Bible study online, but not quite as in depth as you would get out of an in-person Bible study. Very shallow, if you will. That way you're just getting just enough out of it just so you can go back and do your own research and your own study, your own Bible reading, like I do on my own regular basis. So, going ahead and going into the testimony, I wanted to share with you guys a story from years ago about how God helped me stay faithful and focused even during difficult times from high school. So, the story is actually regarding how it was a challenge for me as a high school student to motivate myself, not just to get up a little earlier and bike ride to school, but how it was a challenge for me to even continue getting myself to school even when the weather was bad, and even when I faced other challenges such as a flat tire or whatever, and then bullying on top of that. So when I was first attending Cana Lake Christian Academy, a very small Christian private school in downtown Lake Wales, as far as I'm going with that, I learned it was only 2 miles away from my home. So I decided, well, it's probably close enough that I could either walk or bike ride. And I mean, yeah, I had some motivation from my parents too, but more my mom than anybody. But the point is that I was like, well, why not go ahead and take this opportunity to bike ride to school? So I would get myself up early enough to not just get ready for school, but to also make sure that I was getting myself enough time to get the bike out, bike ride to school, put the bike away in the garage, and get myself in the classroom before 8 in the morning. So I would do that, and I admit it. Sometimes the weather was not always the most pleasant. Sometimes it was pouring down rain, and I actually had to be dropped off at school, and I would have to walk home, depending on what the weather was like later that day. Sometimes it was absolutely freezing, and I would have to get dropped off again. Sometimes it was cold, but not cold enough to the point where I had to be dropped off, and I just had to make sure I was bundled up or I was dressed a little bit warmer. I shouldn't say bundled up, but dressed just a little bit warmer. But nothing prepared me for driving through fog, or not driving, but biking through fog. They always said that driving through fog was challenging, but biking through fog was even harder because of the fact that unless you had a bike with a headlight on it, you were kind of screwed because, like, let's say, for example, I took this route every single day. I would leave the neighborhood, I take a right onto the main sidewalk, I ride that down as far as the crosswalk that was about halfway down the sidewalk over by Lake Wells High School. So, like, the big high school for the area. I would make sure the coast was clear and I'd bike right across. And I knew it was illegal for me to bike ride down the hill, down Spook Hill, which is a National Historic Landmark in Florida, in Lake Wales for that matter. But I knew it wasn't legal for a car to go down that way. So I go down the hill, and I can promise you, not the easiest thing in the world to do because during foggy weather, you never know if a car is going to be coming up that hill. And I mean, the fog can sometimes get so thick that you can't even see the car coming until it's on top of you. So I would often just be praying, God, please do not let a car be coming up the hill and I crash into them at like 50 miles per hour. I don't know how fast I was going. And even once I got to the bottom, I'm still cruising at a good pace. And, you have a general sense of knowing where you're going and you take the same route every single day, but you never know when someone's going to just come out of the fog and hit you. I never worried about any baddies or anything like that, but I still worried about whether I was going to hit somebody or not. And it was just one of those scary things. But there was one morning I was not expecting, the most unfortunate. And this is where my topic really comes into play. One morning I was almost to school and the tire went flat. And I was not prepared. I'll admit it, as a high school student, I didn't stop to think about checking the tires every morning, checking the brakes, anything to that nature. I had a really nice bike I got from Walmart, and I did the usual. I just jumped on it and didn't think twice about checking it or anything, and I should have. And I got as far as the street my school was off of, and I could see the school in the distance. I mean, honestly, I could. And I had left early enough that day, so when the tire went out, I knew I was in trouble. And I just did the normal. I hopped off of it and I started walking it. I didn't have a choice. I had to get there. But what happened next was what I was definitely not expecting. I got there and a bunch of kids were pointing and laughing at me. I mean, at a Christian school, like, who does that? I was like, really? I mean, a public school I can understand, but a Christian school, like, what? And I'm like, really? And I mean, I tried to ignore it. I put the bike in the garage. I'm like, okay, how am I going to get this home? I figured I'll probably get my parents to come by later and get the bike. I'll just walk myself home. And they were laughing at me, asking, like, why are you pushing your bike? Yes, the principal said something, but the point is, like, she shouldn't have had to say anything. The kid should never have been saying anything at all. And I felt humiliated. I felt embarrassed. And nobody really knew who I was. I was just a bike riding kid back then. That's all I was. I was a nobody. And, like, don't you love when you first come to a school and your label at the time is bike riding kid? Because that's honestly who I was when I first started going to that school. I didn't become the person who I really was until 3 years later. I had to prove who I was to earn my reputation. And I've never really understood why people have to earn their reputation, earn their respect. I feel like you should just be given it. And that's why I did this History of the Theme Park Evangelist YouTube series, just to kind of tie this into this one. I didn't become the theme park evangelist overnight. I mean, in some ways I kind of wish I did. In some ways I kind of wish that I just became the theme park evangelist and I became popular overnight, but it didn't work that way. It took a lot of work. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with high school. And, with that being said, I have another topic regarding high school that's not going to be religious, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know next week. I'm going to be discussing how difficult it was for me to try to be an AB honor student in high school, despite the fact that nobody else cared. And, I thought that being made fun of or mocked for having to push my bike to school that one morning was hard, but that was just the icing on the cake. Wait until we actually get into the actual cake itself and we start discussing how hard it was for me to stay focused on my lessons despite everybody else goofing off. And I was like, why? I shouldn't have to, be in a classroom where I feel pressured to decide, do I want to goof off or do I want to decide to stay focused? And that's more or less the environment I was in. I don't even think I've told Katie that yet. So that gives you a reason to come back next week and watch again. I definitely encourage you to. But I'll tell you guys right now, the good part about this first story, that whole being mocked for being a bike rider to school, that didn't last long. Eventually, they forgot about it and started liking me for who I was. Because despite my hard work ethic, I was out there often playing basketball with the guys. I was very good at sports. I tried to include everybody when we were on break or lunch together. I was a very motivational speaker during chapel on Wednesday nights. So eventually, over time, that whole incident of being made fun of for pushing my bike to school and it being pushed in the background. But you're going to have to watch next Wednesday. Sorry, not next Wednesday, next Monday. Wow. If not next Tuesday, to find out whether the difficulty of staying focused in the classroom stay consistent 5 days a week, or whether throughout all of high school, or whether it was only a short-term thing. So in the meantime, I will see you guys in the next vlog. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out. And I know it's early, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because I don't believe in happy holidays.